So are you planning for a pregnancy, or you're already pregnant and you're trying to figure out what the maternity leave is like and what the maternity pay in the UK is like as well? You've been hearing OMP, SMP, and you can't for the life of you figure out what those things are. In this video, I'll be explaining everything about maternity leave and maternity pay. So let's hop right to it. Hello guys, my name is Ayo. I'm an international medical graduate currently trained to become a GP here in the UK. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for coming back. Alright, so I said in this video we'll be talking about maternity leave and maternity pay. So I'll start off with maternity leave. So what's maternity leave like in the UK? So maternity leave basically is the time that you can take slightly before you give birth to your baby and afterwards to basically like bond with your baby and figure out this whole motherhood thing at least to a relative extent. Okay, and what this time is in the UK is about 52 weeks. So there's 26 weeks of ordinary maternity leave and there is 26 weeks of additional maternity leave, altogether making up to 52 weeks. You don't necessarily need to go for the entire 52 weeks. It's really up to you, but there is a caveat, meaning that there's like a clause that says if you work in a regular employee setting you have to go for 2 weeks at least, and if you work in a factory you have to go for 4 weeks at the bare minimum. But otherwise you could always tailor your maternity leave to suit your financial state. So you could decide to go for 6 weeks, or you could decide to go for 6 months, or you could decide to go for the entire year. It's totally up to you how long you go for. All right then, so let's get to the maternity pay. So while maternity leave is basically the right of every pregnant employee in the UK, the maternity pay technically isn't, and is dependent on strict eligibility criteria. So that's what we're going to get into now. There are 3 different types of maternity pay. The first type is the statutory maternity pay, second is the occupational maternity pay, and the third is the maternity allowance. So let's talk about the statutory maternity pay. So that's just a pay that the government actually pays out to the expectant mother or the nursing mother during this maternity leave period. And the strict eligibility criteria I spoke of regarding the statutory maternity pay is as follows. So first, you must have been working for your employer for 26 weeks before the 15th week from your EDD. So if you look at it this way, EDD basically means expected or estimated delivery date. So that's your 40-week mark. So if you look at it this way, you must have been working for your employer for 26 weeks before you are 25 weeks pregnant, which is technically 15 weeks from your EDD, if you understand what I mean. All right, so that's the first thing. You must have been working for your employer for 26th week before 15 weeks from your EDD. So that's number 1. Number 2, you need to inform your employer and provide proof of your pregnancy. So what's this proof of pregnancy? So at 20 weeks marks, around that time, your midwife most likely will provide you with a MAT B1 certificate. So this is basically a certificate proving your pregnancy, and it will bear your EDD on the certificate as well. So this will be signed by your midwife and you're supposed to submit it to your employer appropriately before your qualifying week. The third part of the criteria is that you need to earn at least £123 per week for you to be eligible. So those are the 3 main components of the eligibility criteria for the statutory maternity pay. So now that you've thought about it, you are eligible for the statutory maternity pay. So how is it calculated? What should I expect in my pay slip? So we need to derive something called your weekly pay. Is very important because that's the premise on which every other thing is calculated. So how do you calculate your weekly pay if maybe you earn monthly? If you earn monthly, then you need to get 2 pay slips before your qualifying week. Your qualifying week is 15 weeks from your EDD, so that's 25 weeks as we have established. So you need to get 2 pay slips before your 25th week if you earn monthly. So that will be 17th week to about 25th week. Ideally, you should be able to present 2 pay slips between these 2 periods to calculate, or between these 2 dates to calculate what your weekly pay would be. So those 2 pay slips, you need to add the total of both of them, divide it by 2 to to have an idea what your monthly average is, then you need to multiply it by 12 to kind of see what your yearly pay should be like. Okay, now you've gotten your yearly pay, we now just need to get it back to the week, right? So you just divide it by 52 because we have 52 weeks in the year, right? So you divide it by 52 and that's your weekly pay. So it's important because that determines, oh, do I earn more than £123 a week, to see if you qualify. And if that's the case, then good and fine. So now you have your weekly pay so that you can actually calculate what the statutory maternity pay is. However, if you earn every week, that's even simpler. You can actually just take that week average. So if you calculate your weekly pay over the 8 weeks and divide it by 8, you kind of have your weekly average during that period of time. So another thing to know is that because your maternity pay is calculated during this period of time, it's important that you don't maybe go on absences without pay or go on strikes and things like that, because it would definitely affect your total. And if that affects your total, obviously it would impact on your maternity pay as well. So that's something very key to note. Okay, so now that we've determined that we're eligible for the SMP and also we know our weekly pay, how is this SMP paid and for how long is it paid? So let's get to that. So you're paid 90% of your weekly earnings for the first 6 weeks, and then for the subsequent 33 weeks you are paid 172.48p. So that's what you're paid, £172.48. Or if 90% of your salary is actually lower, that's what you will get paid. All right, so looking at this, you can tell that you get paid for the first 6 weeks and get paid for the following 33 weeks. That means you get paid for just 39 weeks. What happens to the remaining 13 weeks? It's not paid. So the remaining 13 weeks of your maternity leave, actually, you aren't going to be paid at all from the SMP point of view. Okay, so now let's go to the occupational maternity pay, which is also called OMP. So OMP is paid to you by your employers, not the government, your employers. So for me, it was the NHS, and that's what I have experience about. So that's what I'll be detailing in this video. However, if you go on your company's website, if peradventure you're working with a private company or otherwise, or even if you ask your HR, I'm sure they should be able to provide you with the guidelines around occupational maternity pay so that you can know what to expect and you could know the eligibility criteria as well. But in this video, I'll be talking about the eligibility criteria for the NHS occupational maternity pay. So the first thing is that you must have been working in one or more NHS institutions for at least 12 continuous months before the 11th week from your ADD. So before your 29th week of your pregnancy, you must have been working for 12 continuous months. It doesn't have to be the exact same hospital or the exact same trust. You could have worked in different trusts, but if they check, they should have been able to see that you've worked for 12 continuous months before your 29th week of your pregnancy. I hope that's clear. Another thing is you must notify them that you are coming back to work, because it's kind of, in fact, it's quite unfair for you to have taken the maternity leave and then not return back to work, because they're paying you with the expectation that you're coming back to work. So those are the two main parts of the eligibility criteria for the NHS that I'm aware of. Okay, so now let's go into how is it paid and for how long is it paid. Okay, you're paid 8 weeks full pay. So for the first 8 weeks you get your full pay, and then for the subsequent 18 weeks you get half pay. So that gives you 26 weeks, right? It means that for the remaining 26 weeks, from this OMP point of view, you're not going to get paid. Okay, however, there's something you can do to sort of like make sure you're paid something every month of the year for the entire 52 weeks. Okay, and I'll disclose that to you because that's what I've done right now. So you could actually make sure that your employer is aware that you want your pay to be spread across the 52 weeks. So they've calculated your OMP, the first 8 weeks full pay, the next 18 weeks half pay, and then they'll divide it across the 12 months of the year or across the 52 weeks that you want to take your maternity leave for. And that's good because that means that you'll be paid every month. Bear in mind that this can only be done for the OMP. You can't spread the SMP over the 12 months. The government only pays as at when due. The good thing about the NHS is that they compile the weekly pays and they pay you with your paycheck every month. the weekly pay over like, let's say like 4 weeks, and some days they pay you every month. So that's a good thing. So you can expect the sum together, but you can't spread out the SMP over like the entire 52 weeks. It's only going to be paid for the 39 weeks that they have already stated, and in the fashion that they have already stated. Maternity allowance is the last type of maternity pay. However, this is quite special because it's only for people who have worked in certain job roles or are self-employed, and you actually have to make sure that you are eligible by sending in a form and seeing like the feedback from the form. So it's a whole process, but you can check it out on the gov.uk website and find out if you're actually eligible. Even with the other types of maternity pay, you can actually go on the gov.uk website and put in your dates and just make sure that you're getting the right reference points for which to evaluate your eligibility. All right. So let's move into, now that you know you're eligible, how do you inform your employer? So obviously you want to let your employer know that this is when you're going for your maternity leave. So you need to think, when do you want to start your maternity leave and when would you like to come back, bearing in mind your financial states as you have calculated using the maternity pay that I've described. So you've basically had an idea, okay, this is where I'm going to be paid, and this is how long I can survive without my full pay. So that should inform your decision on when you want to go for maternity leave and when you would like to come back. So you've informed your employer that you're pregnant, good and fine. You've submitted your documentation, which is the second step. Submit your documentation for the Mat B1. And then the third thing is you've decided when you want to take time off. Once you've done all of this, the payroll team should be in touch with you shortly before you go on your maternity leave to detail out how much you should be expecting each month, just roughly how much. Some things might change. Maybe you go on maternity leave a little earlier because you deliver a little earlier than you thought you were going to deliver and things like that. So a couple of things might change, but at least it gives you a rough idea of what your income is over the period of your maternity leave would be like, and you can also plan better as well. So that's something else to consider. An additional thing to know while you're calculating everything and while you're trying to prepare yourself financially for this period that could actually be quite daunting, I think it's important that you bear in mind that whatever's your total at the end of it, even whatsoever the maybe company or your employers have sent you as your total for your SMP and your OMP during this period, maybe per month or maybe over the 52 weeks, it's important that you know that that hasn't like taken into cognizance your tax that you have to pay every month. It hasn't also taken out your NI as well. So those two things will still be taken out of your total. And maybe if you have like a company benefit, like a lease car or something like that, that would also be taken out of your total. So those are things to actually factor in as well, so you don't get too excited by the total and then realize that your pay slip is so much lower than what was put out there. So that's something that you need to be aware of in terms of the deductions. Okay, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and if you have any comment, please put it in the comment box down below. I'd really love to hear from you if this has helped you, if you're going to use this method to sort of like plan your finances as well. Just let me know. And if there are videos that you think I should be able to help you with, just do the research. I'm on maternity leave. I'm happy to do the research for you and to come out with the video. So if you just let me know in the comment section as well, I'll be really excited. Thank you so much, and please subscribe. Bye.